everybody to Selectmen's meeting for January 5th, 2021. I'll be everybody there. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Item number 2, and that's the budget. Richard.
I'd like to just start off with a really quick overview, if you don't mind. And I'll call your attention to the appropriation summary sheet, which you should have in your book, dated December 21st, 2020. And you can see there is a large increase. $742,000 is the increase. If you look through the individual budget line items, fully half of that increase is in workers' comp. As a result of the explosion, they've paid out nearly $2 million, and they'll be continuing to pay out. So we had a large increase in workers' comp. It accounts for most of that, or half of that at least. Beyond that, the budget as presented is about 5% above the original budget that was presented last year before the cuts were made. So certainly isn't out of line. One thing I do want to point out, just very quickly, is that we do have a healthy unassigned fund balance that could be used to apply against wherever we end up for a budget that could be applied to that. And we expect to see substantial new valuation from the solar project. So while this looks daunting at first, I want you to know that I think it can be workable. And of course, you always have the opportunity to make adjustments wherever you'd like. And so that's just to set the stage a little bit. And then I guess if you don't have any questions for me right away, I'd say proceed.
Okay. I don't have an agenda.
Oh, it'll be the treasurer clerk.
Okay.
Can I ask you, just another general question, just for the purpose of saving folks a little bit of time as we go through department by department, would you care to point out the things that are common to all those that have personnel that related to expenses, workers' comp, et cetera, or adjustments in salaries that's common to all?
Certainly. The salary adjustments for the non-union folks and for public works are 2% across the board. I believe, Shane, you can help me out with the police, the union contract. They didn't get the 2% because you got adjustments in your health insurance contributions.
Correct. For the next, until the end of this contract, they will not get any wage adjustments.
Yeah,
but they are getting.
Right. So that was the only real exception to the 2% otherwise across the board. And then, of course, FICA and FICA tracks along with that. We were fortunate this year, we did not have any increase in health insurance premiums from the health trust, and it's the first time ever that I have seen that. So that helped us out a lot. And then again, as I mentioned, the workers' comp was really where we're seeing the biggest increases. So.
Dick, do you have your unemployment in there as well? A slight increase into unemployment compensation, which we're going to be charged. I don't know if you had that number or not. I was just looking at it. It's like 2.9% increase.
That's included under other protections in the insurances,
okay.
Which we did go over budget on that last year. So you'll see that I had to bump that up considerably.
They aren't going to issue any dividends this year on that. They're holding because of COVID.
Thank you for that, Richard.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm not sure I have the latest workers' comp figure in your, oh yes, I guess I do. I was looking at the wrong item. So yours is dated 12/17, the budget sheet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it up on my desk. Anyways, if we can check it. But I probably gave it to you just as soon as we got it.
Yep. Whenever you're ready. I don't know if we.
Which one are we doing?
We're doing
Treasurer.
treasurer first.
Let's do that.
Majority of my increase would just be the 2% COLA and everything that snowball effects down through, you know, with retirement matching, that sort of thing. I came in, actually, I think a little bit under what I had last year.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would point out is line 3530, which is on the very bottom before the subtotal, is to, sorry, I'm looking at the assessors, is to start another reserve for computers. And that can or cannot go. My reserve was emptied because our server went down. And then last year we had to have a complete refresh because Microsoft was no longer supporting the suite that we were running. So the computers were so old, they were just locking up and shutting down. We just couldn't push, so we did a refresh. And in 5 years, I probably will need to upgrade again. So I thought about working a small reserve so we wouldn't have to take the hit in 1 year like we did last year.
5 years for most computers is getting long in the tooth.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, and ours were older than that too, the
Yeah.
ones we just replaced. I mean, a few of them have been replaced as they've gone down, but I no longer have a reserve for the 5 that I support. So, you know, printers could fail too. I mean, those are
You
getting,
fail.
yep. So it's about $1,000 a computer. And I put a line item in of 1,000, but we could definitely cut it and just wing it where we had new computers last year. It's just a kind of a, you know, looking down the road a little bit.
I thought I heard you say line 3530.
Well, number 3530 on my, oh, I'm still at assessing. Hold on.
540.
3540, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Looking at the wrong budget.
She was on a different sheet. Mike.
I'm on a different sheet.
You mean you and I aren't on the same page?
No, probably never, ever will be.
She knows you, Mike.
But otherwise than that, these are pretty standard to our contracts and professional services. COVID's a hard year because we didn't really conduct business like we normally would. So a lot more office supplies were consumed, a lot more postage was consumed. Even though we tried to, you know, get that back, I did run over on my expected budget for postage and office supplies, just because the demand for coming online, mailing stuff out.
Yeah. Travel, adding conferences.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really do anything. It was all webinar, and that may be the way that it goes, but it's hard to tell. So I'm on 0505.
Yes,
Yep.
I see 2,800.
Yeah, that's, you know, just for the list of the girls for the training and things. I kept that in there because we consistently have used a little bit more, but definitely could drop it back. I mean,
I didn't know if there was some new training initiative that you were anticipating coming in that year that you need a bit more.
oh, let's see here. We have MMA Vital Records election stuff, MMTCTA, which is the Maine Municipal Tax Collector, Treasurers Association for conference and mileage. They've got a list of stuff that goes through for the clerks for elections. They're going to, they have their own conferences, and then whoever needs to be retrained for just up to date on the state schedule. It's all in there, but I just don't know how they're going to do it, if it's all going to be a webinar or if they're going to be able to travel and they're going to hold it live. I just don't know.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. I don't have a crystal ball
Yeah.
on webinars versus in person. I anticipate there's not going to be a lot of in-person conferences.
No, and a lot of the Zoom training, the Zoom conferences are just as expensive as the in-person ones used to be.
Yeah, you have to pay for them.
$75, $80. just to attend those.
Yeah, the MMA stuff usually is around $30 or $35 if we're a member, and that's where they go. But there's GA that they'll do, and you know, trucks and the Bureau Motor Vehicle stuff. They all have to turn over to keep, you know, representing, especially our agent Mavis. So it's kind of in there, but you know, it could be. I wouldn't be too upset if we hacked it a little.
No, I wasn't pressing that, I was just curious as to what your approach was. Matt?
Yes.
I noticed that too, Steve, and I mean, obviously it's small numbers, but it adds up, but the reality of what you're saying, obviously if more is Zoom, then there's gonna be less travel, so there's gonna be less cost associated with that, so I haven't heard a reason why it's up to 28 from last year you appropriated 15, and then I understand in 19 you went 2350, so I mean, I didn't know if they were.
Yeah, I had a new
Steve's
person
point,
coming
whether there
on.
was
and
another.
I myself was going to try to get more into the election things where I work those
Okay.
as well.
Oh,
But
okay.
that's what I put in my descriptor. I didn't really get the second page put in my book, and maybe you guys don't have it. That.
No.
Oh.
I have one page, so.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Okay. Well, that makes a little more sense, though.
But yeah, my notes as to what goes to each line of what we're putting in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
All set?
I guess we're all set with that one?
Cemeteries?
Yep. Cemeteries.
Oh, right there. Want to run through this one, Lucy?
Yeah.
Slight increase here, 0.10%.
Yeah, it is, and I'm just looking at comparison. We don't have the final of what our expenditures are yet, because we still are working in 2020.
Josh was just asking when you think you might have those. Couple weeks?
Yeah, I haven't even got the bank statements or anything like that, and she has a 2020 basket up there that is like this deep. No matter how much I nag, it just still is for getting stuff in. You know, and these would probably be hopefully the last couple of weeks of purchasing that went on, because our warrant ended early in December, so we have a couple of operating weeks in there. But yeah, I'm trying to tie it out for just one more hit, and that's it. So, I mean, I need things like John O'Donnell's contract. He's gonna be a huge.
We just received a.
Oh, you do have it?
Yep, it just came in today, I think, and I gave it to.
Yeah, it's in the box.
It's in the box.
Okay, great, because I was gonna email him to send it up on Thursday, because
Yep,
I was just looking through items of what we could possibly be missing.
yeah, and
And
that is
that's
$76,000.
Yeah, so that one was a big one. That was a hole in the contracted services line item. But as far as cemeteries go, Ed's really good. He's so old school, it's hard to get him to spend a dime. He tries to fix stuff himself, and he goes along with that. Most of this is just a repetition that, yeah, we're gonna probably have to replace push mowers. We did not use the contracted services for, you know, the backhoe use. He just wasn't comfortable with that for grave digging, so that was eliminated out of this year's budget, because he's just not going to use it. I'm really close on a lot of the stuff going down through here, but you never know what he's going to need for other supplies. You know, if something breaks down or anything, he's got his weed whackers and all that he's running. I kind of just left it. He's pretty much done now, so probably this last expense report that I put out is probably his final. I think I got one Brady bill left up there for $22 that just came in.
Matt,
Yes.
So the backhoe utilization, that was part of contractual 30/50 that we did not using.
Yeah, we wound up not using it at all. That was up 6,500 for 2020 that we thought.
Gotcha.
And I mean, he's been digging more graves. He even was, you know, cutting through 4 inches of frost here at the end of November, trying to put people in the ground. And I talked to him today, and he said he's done. He's like, I can't do it anymore. It's hard on him. So, but yeah, talking with him, he never used them once. It's the timing of being able to get down there, because they work too, and they couldn't get there till after 2, and you know, they start when it's really cool in the morning and like to be gone when it's really hot. So that just didn't kind of come together the way we were hoping it would for him. I kind of left this pretty much going forward. I thought I initiated like the same exact thing. We went up a little bit because things have gone up a little bit in 2020, but he still didn't utilize all of it. So, like I said, he's very thrifty. He's going to be a hard one to replace, there's no doubt.
Again, if you look at account number 0180, the workers' comp, you can see the big increase there because that hit across all of our
Yeah.
accounts. So,
The biggest increase on the whole budget.
Yeah, and it's a fixed, you know, it's fixed. There's no negotiating that. No. They made it sound good, but they still killed us.
Yeah.
Matt,
Yes, ma'am.
I've got a related question. I should know the answer from all these years. But I'm looking over on, before the Public Works, page 1. We've got a cemeteries maintenance line item
yes,
in that. I
That's
assume that that's when we
contractual.
have highway crew actually doing maintenance on roadways or,
no,
walls
that's,
or,
in the public works budget, that's contractual for the mowing of the outlying cemeteries.
That's
We
the
do-
mowing.
we do that quite a bit. When we get to that, I did increase that this year, because we had some success with repairing gravestones, and we'd like to continue with that, so.
well, I just stood up wondering why that line wouldn't be over here in cemeteries as opposed to highway. Not that it's gonna change the dollar amount.
No, this is strictly for, covers the expenses at Riverside and Fairview.
Thank you.
Matt, I have a question.
Yep.
In regards to what Richard just said about fixing the headstones, did we use some of the funds out of this?
No, the funds that we used last year came from trust funds
Okay,
for the
trust.
two cemeteries, the Butterfield Cemetery.
Oh, okay.
And the Center Meeting House Cemetery. We discovered trust funds that we were able to use.
So,
Those, we don't really have any others that we can use.
right, and so for the two cemeteries here, Riverview and Fairview,
Yeah.
if we needed to fix the stone in there,
Yeah.
could we just use a reserve account, the infrastructure
We-
reserve account potentially?
We could, I think what that was in there for was for,
The wall?
mainly for road repair. in
Okay.
the- in
And the fencing?
cemetery.
Oh, we had the fencing, yeah, one
We
And
year.
the fencing,
A
that's.
couple of years ago or something?
Yeah.
The fence
What was
was
it last year?
replaced, what, year before last?
High Street fence.
Summer before last,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
But you could technically.
Yeah, we had talked about, because of the humps in the cemeteries too, that has been like something we've been trying to get done since I've gotten here.
Yeah.
And it hasn't worked out, so we were talked about maybe just getting a contractor to come in
And do
and
that.
fix those, because when you're driving through, I can't drive in, I have to tip up because my car is gonna hit.
Right.
So that's happening a lot with funerals, that, you know, people are hitting their cars and vehicles on there. So he wanted to take that high hump out of the middle of those and like add gravel or whatever it would take. I'm not much of an architect for that, but, or contractor, but somebody would have to come in, and we had that cited for a couple of years on there, and it didn't work out. They were too busy doing other projects that, so that's something we had talked about also for using that reserve money.
Any other questions? Mike? Else? Clerk, I guess we're all set with that then?
Yeah, unless you want to talk about the T.A.N. while you're here.
Yep, we can certainly do that.
No, the tan we just left the same that we have every year, but I don't think we ever used it, did we?
No, it's just kind of an internal policy.
Yeah.
In case we need it.
Not
We've come close. We have come close to needing it. Actually, I jumped over assessing. I don't know if you wanted to do that one as well.
Yeah, I covered assessing and did this with John. I was on it, now I gotta find it again. And of course, we didn't change up his quarterly stipend at all, but the increase of 2% adds a little bit to this. A lot more deed work going on. Stuff is selling, put it that way, in Farmington, so the contractual there is, and legal. I increased that because it just is running a little too tight. And you know, they charge, Franklin Registry of Deeds charge for copies, the postage, the plan, so we get so many copies that he can print, that sort of thing. It runs a little bit, and there's been a lot of deed work. It's just unbelievable stacks of it coming in that they have to go through. So I bumped that up, I think, a little bit, just because we're over on some and under on others. We try to utilize him. He doesn't use much for office supplies, but he got a replacement for a computer, and so he should be good there as well. Basically, it's just his contract that really, you know, stands out on this one, and that's a fixed amount. And the reval, again, we kept it where we had projected it needed to be at the time of revaluation, so we're going to be on target for that. Nothing left over, but we'll be on target for it.
Okay, it's not going to cost us more.
Right. Yep.
And again, you call your attention to the workers' comp line, and you see the increase there.
Yep.
Yeah.
For that, it would have been flat.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yep. Questions or comments? Good, I guess we're all set with that. Go on to general assistance.
General assistant, you're all set, Lucy.
Yep.
Head home before we go on.
Thank you.
No problem. You guys can find me.
Yep, thank you. General assistance, Leanne is asking for the same amount as she has for the last several years, $25,000. She has this little memo here explaining expenses have been really down this year. Oops, I guess I didn't give you a spreadsheet, just the memo. So I don't have a total expenditure on that yet, but I think it was last report, it was somewhere around the $3,800 range that had been spent.
Oh, wow.
That was 25,000 budgeted, but we don't expect that's going to stay like that. Unemployment runs out, the stimulus package runs out.
When I say probably with the increase of the extra money that I was getting for workers' comp and all that, so.
Yeah, that has helped, yeah. So she's looking for 25,000.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay.
If not, we'll move on to code enforcement. Good evening. Steve?
So, with the COLA increases, that put our budget up about $2,700. Excuse me. And I cut from services $1,500, from capital outlay, excuse me, $500, and supplies I cut 700. So we actually kind of washed out our increases in personnel, except for workers' comp, with those cuts. And we were about $300 under last year's budget, but like everybody, we increased on our workers' comp, so that was up 3,200. So overall, our budget's up 2,900, but certainly we didn't take as heavy a hit as many in terms of the increase in workers' comp. So, but that's about all the wiggle room I had to finesse things with our budget. So that's just a quick snapshot. Things I was able to save on were just office supplies. Postage costs are trending down. And services, legal and advertising are down. So I was able to just tighten that up a little bit right there. So, and we're in good shape with our computer equipment. So Kate's been updated. So we're just, it's a good time just to kind of keep things low and, yeah. But, so, not much else I could jiggle around in there, in our budget.
Steve, I'm just trying to think back in 2020 for legal and advertising for $4,000. What were we anticipating that might happen, or did we just have a lucky year and didn't have to expend that
Well,
amount?
yeah, they're there. And if you look at the actual expenditures, they're under control. Of course, they're half this year, and I think that's due to the, we haven't had anything really contentious lately, I think, Steve, and so, hopefully we try to keep it that way. We try to work out things before they get to the planning board so that, they sometimes ask, why don't we have more things to turn down? Well, we tell them that we don't want things to get to you if they're turned downable. We want you to be looking at good applications that we've worked the kinks out of. So that's, I think, the best explanation, Steve, for that.
Thank you.
Sure.
No, just commend you, Steve, for, it seemed I was, surprised to actually see the increase, but obviously knew it was from the workers' comp, because this would have been, I don't know how many years in a row, you would have had a decrease.
Yeah.
Which is, I know you don't have a very large department, so, but still, I think you're doing a good job, so.
Yeah, we usually underexpend our appropriation. I could keep getting it tighter and tighter, then I'd have something, I wouldn't have a cushion of something ballooned on me, so it's, so, yeah, well, thank you for that. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Moving along to police. Okay. Your turn?
So the largest increase is in personnel, obviously, workers' comp. And part of that is because Jack cut some money out of the wages last year, and I believe it was in June, in order to save money, because we hadn't hired. And so it was halfway through the year, we hadn't hired. Well, we are now, we've got one guy at the academy for phase 2, and we're doing a background on another one, and so we're gonna be back to full staff hopefully this year. So I had to put that money back into the wages line. And then we also cut training and education last year because of COVID. I do expect some things to open up. I've already, the 2 sergeants are gonna be going to a supervisory class in person, hopefully. So I think things are gonna start opening up again, and I don't think the online training that we've been attending are gonna stay free forever. So the other increase in that training and education is ammunition. That's where we pay for ammunition. So we've got potentially two candidates for the academy. Ammunition prices have skyrocketed. We have to send them both with 1,500 rounds. As well as when Jack left, he was one of our 2 firearms instructors. We now have 1. it's good to have two, so I'd like to get somebody back to the academy for, become a firearms instructor, which is, also takes ammunition.
1,500 rounds, that's what we gotta send them with?
Yeah, yep, times two, and another 15, I think, another 1,500 or more for the firearms instructor.
That's a lot of shooting.
It is a lot of shooting. Motor fuel went up, we've got, you know, more cars now, but I do think that we're gonna see an increase in gas prices this year. We've had enough in the recent years, but there was a couple years ago we went over by a little bit, so I increased that slightly, because I do think we're gonna see an increase there. And then the other big increase is vehicle. Last year, we cut that vehicle line to purchase 2 used cars instead of a new car. This year, in order to sustain what we're trying to do, we need to purchase 1.5 cars a year. So we would like to do a new car this year, and the prices of new Ford Explorers, if that's what the winning bid is, went up a lot a couple years ago. So those are the big increases.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Shane, under contractual services, 3050, you have a $5,000 increase there.
So, yes, I discovered some contracts that we had that were not included in the 2020 budget. So I had to put those in. As we were going through line by line, I sat down with the 2 sergeants and said, all right, we paid this bill, is that in the budget? We paid this bill, is that in the budget? And we found a couple that weren't in the budget, as well as, let's see what my notes say on that. So we have quite a few contracts. Maybe I'll find it real quick. There we go. That's basically it. There were some contracts, increases in contracts from previous years, and then additional contracts that we had that weren't included in the 2020 budget.
These are things like the network security, Symantec,
Correct, yeah, right.
cloud backup service, et cetera.
Got it all, yeah, got it all listed out here. I know one of the ones that went up quite a bit, I'm just looking, I just caught my eye, was our incident reporting software. That took a $700 jump from the year before. It went from 58 to 65.
Also, I might point out, you have the virtual training simulator, and this would be actually the second full year that you have that.
I think this is the first year we've had to pay
Full amount.
pay for the, right, that's right, an additional contract that we didn't have last year.
Yeah, 2,400 there, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Matt, a couple questions.
Yes, go ahead.
So in that contractual services, is that where the costs that are associated with the downtown cameras are coming out of too? Or is that coming out of a
Yes,
different line?
yes, and that actually came in less, that came in a little bit less than we were anticipating.
Oh, yeah.
So that includes, we have 2 different Nest accounts, one for the downtown cameras and one for the ones that we use.
Mm-hmm.
And those together come to 800. We were anticipating it to be a lot more
I
for
was
the,
thinking like $3,000 or something
yeah,
like that.
so it just,
We'll
I
take-
think they changed their subscription platform,
Oh, okay.
and they're charging less for the storage and the subscriptions now, so.
Okay, that's good. I was curious on where we were at. I had another question in regards, so with the vehicles,
Mhm.
you said so you're planning to have 1.5 vehicles?
Well, yeah, so if we purchase, last year we bought 2. So
Two
this year,
used.
two, actually, yeah, two used ones. So if we get a new one this year, we'll have to get, two next year in order to maintain it. Right now, we're running, so we have a 2013, three 2014s, all with over 100,000 miles. And then we skipped a couple years, so we have 16, 17, 18. They're all getting up there in mileage, and the more miles we put on, and the longer we keep them, the more things break. We went over in our vehicle repair line this year just because we have an older fleet of cars. So in order to maintain that fleet of cars, we have approximately 1.5 cars a year. And the state isn't always going to have decent used cars for us to purchase. Other towns have caught on to this, and Sergeant Keaton at the state is, he keeps a list of who needs cars and prioritizes, and if there's an agency that just absolutely they don't have a car, he'll prioritize, but they're not always available.
Right. So do you foresee us going to something similar to the way the county is? Because I think they rotate 2 every year, something like that. Number of vehicles.
Yeah, I think especially if we throw one new one and one used one, so this year, our plan is to buy one new one this year. Next year, probably one new one and one used one, if there's one available, and that will, we'll be able to maintain that fleet.
Right, and you anticipate we're not gonna be adding any more vehicles when we do that, they'll just be replacing?
Replacing, yes.
Because obviously we went with the added vehicle, one vehicle when we got the used one. We got the 2 used last year.
Yeah, I failed to mention to Mr. Davis and the board, we did not win the bid on the Guilford Cruiser.
Okay.
So we were outbid by $1,000.
That's too bad.
So, yeah, so we did not, so that would have been the half, that would have counted as the half vehicle, so we would have only had to buy one this year, one next year.
Okay.
And that would have taken care of that, but we didn't win that bid, unfortunately.
But when we added, I was just trying to get it clear in my mind, when we bought the 2 used vehicles in 2020, we increased the fleet by 1 vehicle?
I think what we did is, no, we did not get rid of one.
No, added 1.
By purchasing 2, yeah, we now have enough cars for each officer to have a car.
Right.
And that's what so we're at what we need to have now with no spare.
Right.
Which is okay, because we can share, but.
Right.
And that was part of the contract negotiations, an attempt to help to retain officers, that they could have a vehicle for take-home.
Right, and that's why I thought one of the reasons why we did it, it was kind of a cheaper way of starting the process.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's all I had. Thank you, Shane.
Anybody else? Mike, you good?
Well, yes, actually I am, but I expected to see a new line item on your budget, but it's within yours, but not within this one. So when I look at what's on this sheet, isn't the same as what's on this sheet. Our numbers are the same, but some of the, like your K-9 isn't on this one.
Right, I don't do that one. I send Mr. Davis a Excel spreadsheet and a Microsoft Word document, and I don't know who creates, I have no idea who creates
So it just hasn't got,
that.
Well, this spreadsheet, yeah, I did that for this spreadsheet,
Yeah.
the Excel spreadsheet. Based on the numbers that Shane provided to me for the proposed budget, just transferring those numbers onto this spreadsheet that I use. So did I miss something? Or?
I don't have the ones that you have. Are you looking for the K-9 reserve?
Yes.
Yeah,
It is in here. Well, down here on this sheet, but
which is the one that I send? Is it the
Right.
one that I send?
total capital outlay. time card.
Well, the totals are the same. I guess we need to create a line item in the larger spreadsheet and move something.
Yeah, actually, the number is off by 500 on this spreadsheet that I just got from Nancy and my spreadsheet.
Okay, so we've got I see that now. We've got to add $500 in here for T.A.N. at the end. So, yeah, apologize for that. I'll get an account number for that. And we'll fix that.
Good catch, Michael.
Yes.
Surprisingly.
Thank you.
That one we underlined. How about now, Mike?
Well, just a minute. I'm all set.
All right. Steve?
Good.
Good. All right. Think you're all set with that? Thank you, Shane. Absolutely, thank you. Next up is fire.
So, under the personal services, you have my 2% increase in my wages. We have the stipends, which are given out at the end of the year for the members that make the percentage of the calls. Under the wages, this year we're asking, well, I'll back up. In this year's budget, it actually had the two full-time firefighters that we added last year in last year's budget will actually be in there for the whole year. That's part of that increase. The other increase is I have added in there to add one per diem firefighter Monday through Friday for 10 hours a day. So that will give us, with the two full-timers, that per diem and myself, that will give us four people here during the daytime for emergency calls. There also is an increase of the overtime. By 3,000, and that's duly because of the increase, the two more full-time people, the vacation times. Some of the people that were in the explosion are still having operations, so we have to cover when they're gone. And then, because we have the workers' comp increase, as everyone else does. So is everyone all set with that part of the budget?
I have a question.
Yes,
So, in regards to the per diem firefighter.
yes.
So, the schedule changed, I don't know if you talked about it when you added the two firefighters?
Last,
Wanted to go to the per
when
diem?
we
I
added,
can't remember.
when we added the two more firefighters in August,
Right.
we went to a 24-hour schedule. Two
Okay.
people are on duty 24
Yeah.
hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So what I'd like to do, is that what you were asking?
Yeah, like more explanation of.
Yeah, so I mean,
If you don't
it's, we're gonna have to pay for, that's one of the increases, that's for a whole year.
Right.
We're adding more people, which I guess we all decided last year to do that.
The two
We're all-
firefighters, the two full-time ones.
Two more full-time ones,
Right,
yes.
yeah.
The other per diem one is what I've put in this year's budget to
Right.
try to do
Okay.
that. I'd like to do that,
Okay.
so.
So the per diem person, this is what I'm trying to
Yeah,
understand.
okay.
Make sure
No.
I'm not forgetting something, because obviously a lot's going on. That I can't remember if we discussed about the per diem person.
We did not, I did not,
Way back when we talked about the two full-time.
right now, we still do use per diem people.
Right.
On a Wednesday, we use a per diem person that covers the 24-hour shift, whether it's 12-hour shift.
Mhm.
And on a Saturday, we do the same thing. And that gives us the full coverage week-long. So what I've asked to do here is add another one per diem, yes. Just those 10 hours a day for 5 days a week.
And how would that work with your schedule now? Like what would it still be 24 hours?
Still, he wouldn't be, but the rest of them would all be 24. But during the daytime, Monday through Friday, we'd have 4 people at work. I would be there with this per diem and the 2 full-timers.
Is there per diem doesn't work now during the day?
We have, no,
No?
only on Wednesdays and Saturday does the per diem work.
Okay.
Unless we,
cut that last year.
Okay.
That was cut.
I say, I'm like,
It's
all right, I
exactly
thought there was a
Making
per
the whole
diem
budget
during the
work, we
day,
used to
but-
have an 8-hour,
Okay.
5-day-a-week third person. That was
right. I don't remember a lot about last year, but
That's why I'm asking
Yeah,
questions. If
that's
you ever
fine.
remember how
questions are good.
the staffing level went.
Yeah.
So you believe that you need one more
It
person
would be,
during the
it would be a
day?
big benefit. And technically, with 4 of us, we can do, because we have this requirement of 2 in, 2 out. We can do stuff. I can still wear an air pack. I can be the 4th person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You have, oh,
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
there's a cost breakout for that.
That would be 28,000 to do that person. Yeah.
Of the 28,000 that costs workers' comp. No.
No, that's a little bit more, I'm not sure how that breaks, but there would be a little bit more to the workers' comp.
Okay.
Although I think we're paying enough now.
Oh.
I don't think it'd be a big change. So that is under the personal services. And then a lot of where I've increased, I've actually brought the line items back up to where they were last year before we cut. Like travel and education, the main fire chiefs are planning on having their annual retreat, hopefully at Sunday River this summer, so in person. Whether that happens, I don't know, but there's usually 3 or 4 of us that go to that, so. And then we have, there are other opportunities for training that unfortunately we do have to pay for. A lot of our regular department training we do in-house, or sometimes we do training with county money with the other departments. So that's how those are paid for. Clothing and apparel, I've got that back up to what I had asked for a few years ago, for try to get everyone suited with 2 sets of turnout gear. Motor fuel is, I put 8,000. Assume probably will be some type of increase, not sure yet. And I will say, looking at my last printout, there are line items that are over, so I don't, until we get the official one. I will, and I'll go back up the wages a little bit. That's probably gonna be over, because this past year, we had 484 calls. And that's a lot of calls compared to what we have years past. And
You had a lot of calls just in the last 2 weeks.
yeah, absolutely. Since we had this last pay period is kind of frightening to me, but it is what it is, and we'll do the best we can, and go from there. Down to vehicle maintenance, I've upped it about $3,000 from what we actually got last year. We do have our regular pump maintenance, inspections, ladder inspections, fluid changes, stuff like that. And also the the tower truck has a problem with its pump primer, and that needs to be repaired or replaced. It's probably going to be in the $33,000 range, so got that in there. And it also, the foam system on the truck needs to be looked at because of it's not working properly right now. And then there's also some rust on that truck that hopefully in-house we can take care of with removing it and repainting it. So hopefully we can do that. So
That's
that,
on the body and not on the frame.
no, it's, well, it's some surface.
It's surface rust on the outriggers behind the rear
Yeah.
tires, you know. We had the truck undercoated a couple years ago.
Right.
Which has helped the frame immensely, but
Yeah.
just some stuff more preventative before it gets too much worse.
Right, we don't want to run into the other problem.
Yeah, sure.
So, so that's vehicle maintenance. Computer, I do need to, as Lucy was talking about old computers, we do have one that does need to be replaced. And I would, in our vehicles, we have iPads, which we've had for many years, and they're starting to show some age, so I would like to possibly replace at least, we'll do 1 or 2 a year, whatever, you know, works out. And then we have the reserve. The manager and I discussed it, and that's the figure we put in. That's whatever you folks want to do.
It should actually be more than that. But
Right.
we didn't have, we went down to 25,000 last year. We were hoping to bring that gradually back up.
Yeah.
You may recall, the work that we put in the engine two was supposed to get it to the last 5 years, and we're already into the second year
Right.
of that. So we need to accelerate this if we're not gonna be into a heavy borrowing situation again with a replacement for engine two.
And then public safety equipment, sorry. And buy stuff as we need to do the operation. So I'm up for questions.
Chief, your department has a pretty good track record in past years of success with federal grants that have helped us out in a couple of different line items. I suspect you've got some options in mind you might try again that can help.
We do. Actually, the Fire Act grant, which is a federal program, which we have applied for in different, and 05, we got some exercise equipment, turnout gear and stuff like that. We did try to get our new air packs that way, which did not work, but hey, we tried. We are going in this, and it just came out last week, we are going to put in for a new engine to replace engine 2. It's an outside chance, probably we won't get it, but it would, if we were to get it, it would be a big savings for the community, and especially in the reserve part of it. I mean, like I said, it's an outside chance, but the truck, it's a 1995. It does meet the requirements that they like to get rid of that age of truck. So we're gonna, with some grant writing and help, we're gonna try it. And then if we were to get it, whatever the cost of the vehicle would be, the town would have to pay 5%, which if we didn't have it right now, next, I think you have up to a year after you're awarded the grant to get your portion of the money, so that's something that could be done at a later date. But we are definitely going to do that. That's, we have like 30 days to do it. It came out, I think, last week, so by the end of the month, we'll have that application in, and it's a peer review stuff. We're gonna use the Senator Collins's office and the other representatives or senators to help out. You know, we'll try. We'll see what we can do. So I'm up for questions.
That's it. Mike?
I'm all set. I understand numbers are up, numbers have fluctuated. But I can see from your budget, the way it's presented, and the facts of where it came from, that it's, your hands are somewhat tied in a lot of them, and a lot of them you just have to do what you have to do. And I do commend you for your increase in the reserve account. I think that's money well put.
Thank you.
How's that, Josh?
I'm all set for now.
All right.
Thank you.
For now?
The only thing I've got to say is that adding the extra man does concern me.
Yeah.
Seems like every time we
Yeah.
come, yeah, well, yep, we need another man this year.
I hear you.
That it's, we had talked about that. I
Yeah.
think that's gonna be a hard thing.
Yeah,
I really do.
yeah,
So, but other than that, I think the budget looks pretty good.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All set. All right.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you. Sir. Move along with Parks and Rec next.
You might want something to put in there, that's a long way down.
Whenever you're ready, Mike.
Okay, so we'll start in Parks and Rec. Going down through the personnel services, some of the like kind of bigger changes are, we had like an 0120, 0130 for two different line items for seasonal part-time people. The smaller line item, 0120, used to be used for like more stipend type positions that we did back in the past, but then over the years, we found out that like stipends are hard to do with people, and we've moved to mostly just hiring people instead of just stipending it out for insurance reasons and liability reasons and everything else. So, so Lucy and I had spoken about it, and it would just be easier to have it all in that one line item since they're all pretty much coming out of that same thing. So that's why that 0130 looks like kind of a bigger increase. Obviously, it looks like it's quite a bit bigger than last year, but that's partly because we had to cut this past year. I mean, it was going to be about 49,983, but as you can see, really all I'm asking for is the cost of living increase for this year. And you'll see through this budget, I'm trying to plan on us running like normal. Obviously, this past year we didn't. We had to run things quite differently. And you're going to see that at the year-end expenses. I think I'm going to be turning in probably around 30,000 or more for each of these budgets. So we'll probably be turning back in about $60,000 from the way we did business this year. We still were able to provide a lot of programming, and I'm really proud of what we have done this year. But so that's kind of that line item. We may end up using quite a bit of it depending on how things go, but if not, then that'll just be turned back in like it was this past year.
But this year, you also suffered on the revenue side. And
Right.
that would increase presumably as
Right,
well.
yeah. So, and then you can see 0180, the workers' compensation, I mean, that went up almost 1,000%. And that is the big majority of that increase. If you take that out, it's really, not too bad an increase in that area. Down through, there's really not much for changes. The facilities, 1060, I did increase that a little bit because I ended up overspending that this year. That has been 8,500 for, I think, since I started here, and that's getting to be the point where it's not making it anymore. Down through, there's really not much for other changes. The equipment's going down. Repairs, we have like an extra $600 left in that this year, and I think that's due to having newer equipment and, less repairs, and hopefully that will keep decreasing, but.
Say that too loud.
Right. And let's see. Let's see here. I mean, there really hasn't been much else that's changed the rest of the way down through. Another kind of one of the increases back up in the personnel was partly because we cut the budget some last year, like we didn't run swimming lessons and stuff, like we knew we were not gonna do that when we presented the budget and kind of fixed it. We were able to take some of that out, but, you know, when we take those things out, that didn't really take that new minimum wage, because those were, so it's a little bit more inflated in that way, because I'm still dealing with the minimum wage increase, because we didn't deal with it this past year. Not totally, we did mostly, but, so that's still affecting it. So overall, 7.84 increase. If you take out workman's comp, it's only 3.2% increase, and if you base that off my original request compared to last year, it's less than a 0.5% increase, like 0.5. So, yeah, that's the Parks and Rec budget.
It's amazing, the insurance can go up $9,000 in 1 year. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Did you see the police department?
Oh, I did. Yeah, but it stands out here. You go from 975 to 9,000.
Right.
Well,
688,
I
which is
think
ridiculous.
I mentioned the total was over $300,000, so it was clearly half of the total increase for this year.
Yeah.
So Matt, I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe in regards to the way you're switching around.
Yeah.
People being
Stipend
paid a
to
stipend
employees,
for
yeah.
being the swim instructor. I'm just using an example.
Right.
I assume that's how they were paid originally.
Well, no,
Or
so,
soccer coach.
I mean, so stipend would be kind of like if we were going to run a summer program, like if we were gonna have a sailing program at Clearwater Lake, we're not, but, you know, if we were gonna do that, and we say, well, Josh Bell is like a sailor, he came into the rec department, he knows all about it, he wants to help us run a program, so we say, okay, well, we're gonna pay you a $500 stipend to do this. Because a lot of the times, it's hard, and it is hard for us, the way we do it now, for me to get people to run summer programs, because we pay them an hourly wage
Right.
for hourly work.
Right.
It used to be that we would pay someone, like, you know, if you have an expertise in that area, you already have a job, it's hard to get people who are knowledgeable and are talented at those things, so we would offer them just a flat-out stipend, where you'd make like a couple $100 for like a couple week program, versus, you know, they make $12 an hour and they work 1 hour, 2 nights a week for 6 weeks. So it's a little bit more difficult for me to get, you know,
So
qualified
the way you're
people.
changing it's gonna make it more difficult.
well, that's the way the world is now, because when we're doing it comes into liability and insurance.
Right, that's what I just kind
So it makes it a lot more difficult when you're trying to do stipend things, because to technically do a stipend the proper way, you would have your own insurance, you would have your own
Right.
company, and then you'd want more money from us. So then all of a sudden we're charging people a lot of money to run this or to come and join this program. So it's insurance and lawyers.
Okay. No, I
Pretty much.
gathered all that, so.
And it's a lot, it's much safer for the people running the programs, and it's much safer for us, because before it was like, it was a little questionable. Over time, it used to be very common practice, but over the years, it becomes more difficult when all of a sudden they're not actual employees.
Right.
What happens when they get hurt? Are they gonna get personally sued, lose their homes and
Right.
everything else? And then in that instance, you think, well, okay, well, they're getting hit. But because we might not be doing it in the most proper way, then
Right.
we may be liable for something too. So we're trying to get rid of all liability issues.
No,
and-
that's fine. I just was curious on
Yeah.
if you would think it was gonna be better or worse
Yeah.
or whatever.
It is more difficult to manage, and it's a lot more employees that we have to take on and everything else, but, you know, it's the way business is going now.
So how will that work, like, in an instance where you don't run that program? Are you gonna still have that employee, or are you just not gonna hire that
No,
person?
we usually just don't hire them.
Okay.
Or ideally, I mean, my ideal is you find a few employees that could run a lot of stuff. But it's hard to find the one person who's really great at mountain biking and baseball and field hockey and swimming and, you know, frisbee golf and whatever, or that's willing to do those things, you know? So a lot of the times you find, and with me, I have a hard time not offering the best that I can. So, you know, I could maybe find somebody who's willing to try everything, but we may not be giving our customer or participant or the taxpayer the absolute best that we can give them with, like, you know, a really well-qualified person to do it, like Greg Veo doing biking, you know? So, and ultimately that is less liability and problems for us too, because you have more qualified people running programs, but it's just, it's harder to find because it's almost like the volunteer issue that we have nowadays. Like, it's hard to get volunteers, and it's almost like the people you have running summer programs are almost like volunteering because they don't make enough or any money off of it. They're just kind of doing it, and you're kind of just covering their gas and other
I just was
things.
curious on how you thought it was gonna work
Yeah.
out, one way or the other.
Yeah.
I know if we didn't run the program, and what are you gonna let the person go, or you
Right.
have them do this program instead, or whatever?
Yeah, typically we just either hire them or don't hire them
Okay.
for that program, depending on the numbers that we get or
They're
something.
gonna run it similar to the way you have.
Right.
Just, they're gonna be paid different.
Right, just paid out of a different line item,
All right,
so,
thank you, Matt.
yeah.
What's that? Mills? Mike?
Yeah, I'll be nice. Actually, that's what I was gonna do. On Parks and Recreation,
Yeah.
this budget, under equipment, the lawnmower that you were purchasing, is that where it would come from, is under equipment?
Are you talking 35, 55?
30, 35, 55?
Yeah, that's the amount of money that we're putting into the reserve account to go toward purchasing the equipment.
Well, where I was getting to was
Yeah.
that I don't see a reserve account. I see where, I wouldn't read that as reserve account. I read that as you're budgeting
Right,
11,500 to buy vehicles and equipment.
so do they have a copy of this one? Two in there?
It'd be 70,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so my copy will tell you lots of detail, because I want to give you lots of detail.
It doesn't call it a reserve, well,
In my notes.
In your description,
Right.
it calls it a reserve.
Yeah.
The account's not labeled as a reserve.
Right, it's not labeled as it because, like, that account, we use it to, like, if I had in there like $18,000 and it said 7,000 to go toward reserves and, you know, the other chunk of change to go toward the purchase of equipment this year that we know we need to get versus like putting things into the reserve account, so. That's just the vehicle to get money to the reserve account.
My only reason for mentioning it is if you were like the fire department, and they have much same looking stuff all the way down through, but then they
Right.
get down to reserve. So when they need repairs or putting money ahead, saving
Right.
money for a purchase another year,
Yeah,
would be on a line by itself. That's what made me wonder why you
okay.
don't.
We do have reserve accounts, but they're not
I
attached.
see you have them with
to
the
here.
community center, but not the Parks and Rec.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can easily put that in there. Not sure why we didn't. Right now, the Parks and Recreation Vehicle equipment account has $20,177.
And it's gonna be 18 after, I just purchased that, snow blower. So, and that hasn't come out yet, but that was purchased. And I did spend less than the 2,400.
Model you
I'll
get.
put that in there.
Aaron's.
Balance.
When you want it.
Yeah, yeah, they gave me a really good deal on it, so.
I'd just like to see a line there for that, and then each year you could put $2,000 or $5,000 or whatever it is you might put in, and then it builds up and you have that little cushion that
Right.
you might need.
Well, that's what we are doing, but you don't see it, I
I
guess.
don't see it,
Right.
so that's
So we
I
do,
didn't see the balance.
We are doing it, yeah.
I'll plug that in.
okay,
very good.
good,
That's all I could find.
all right.
Good, Steve?
I'm good.
All right. Moving right along, Matt.
Good.
Community center.
So again, you know, I'm planning like we're gonna be doing things as usual, which doesn't mean that we will or that we'll be using it all, but, in 0120, the only difference for that, like a little bit of a bump in increase is I'm looking to, have our custodian go from custodian maintenance go from 25 hours a week to 30 hours a week, which would be a really good deal for the town to, you know, we still don't pay benefits at that point. And she is a workhorse, so if I could get her for another 5 hours a week, that would be a really big help to us in maintaining our facilities here. But that's really, the only other thing is the workers' comp, went up, and that was like a $4,500 increase over last year. So not really any huge increases in there. The rest of it is pretty similar to how it was. The heat is going down still at the community center, so that's, pretty good. I did, if you look in 3050, that kind of did a significant jump because that was one of the things that was cut out this past year. We know, like, when we go through the budget process, what ends up happening is we always have money in there for snow removal of the community center roof. Well, after we'd gone through the budget season, we knew, the budget didn't pass until like, August or whatever it was. And so,
It might have snowed.
right, so we knew we didn't need it in the spring, and usually it's unlikely that we're gonna need it in the fall because usually the snow load gets heavier in the spring when it's wet and heavier and everything. So that I thought we really should put back in there, and that I got an updated estimate from the roofing company, and it's $2,500 just for a one-time snow removal of that. And that's because it's like a $80,000 rubber roof membrane that we don't really want to damage. So, yeah. And I've heard a lot of people talking about computers tonight, but I would almost venture a guess I have one of the oldest computers in the town of Farmington that's still being actively used by a department head. So it's 9 years old, and
It's just getting broken.
so, and it still works okay. And I am constantly backing up everything on a flash drive because I am ready for it to go at any time. So, and our Wi-Fi routers and everything in the building are about 9 years old as well. And that stuff we really need to upgrade. And I've been seeing part of the issues too is that some of the newer computer systems that you can buy just automatically come with video editing software and everything else right on it that typically we'd have to pay $300 to $500 for. Now that we're doing so much virtual programming, it makes more sense to just buy a computer that has it on it and does it really well than putting a $300 to $500 software on a 9-year-old computer, which I don't know how that's going to handle that anyway. So, right. So, but otherwise everything else is the same. And we're looking at 6.69% increase, and obviously if you take out the workers' comp increase of $4,500, it's not nearly that bad, but again, it's what we're dealing with, so.
So with this antique computer and some of your Wi-Fi stuff that you want to replace, is that under office equipment?
Yep,
And you're gonna do all that for $1,500?
yes, sir. I'm gonna try.
Go as far as you can go with the 1,500.
Right,
Continue on next year, right?
right.
If things get dire, you can set the
I won't,
community center reserve fund.
Yeah, we do have the reserve account. I don't know if that can be used for office equipment type stuff because it's a building reserve account. I don't know if you could justify internet networking system for the building. I don't know. That's
You might, if it's a hardwired thing,
Right.
you might be able to, but
Yeah.
generally it's for things like boiler replacement, windows, and that sort of thing.
yeah.
In fact, I think that's a big thing we've been trying to save for, is the HVAC system for the.
Right, that's what we've been saving for, and hopefully I just finally get some more firm quotes on that, and we're looking like we should be good to go to get between $130,000 to $150,000 system for the community center. That's what I've been working on for quite a while here, so.
That's very nice.
Yeah. Very good.
But yeah, and I don't know, I think any money that is unspent goes back to general fund or unassigned fund balance or something like that. So like I said, I think it should be around 30 to 35, I think, from Parks and Rec that's going back in, or that I haven't used this year, and I think it's gonna be around 30-ish for the community center, but we don't have those final numbers yet, so. And that's mostly from not running in-person programs, and a lot of that was due to risk factors, obviously, and then the other part was just the way you have to run programs during COVID times is a lot more money, because you have to have a lot more staff. Everything is a lot more, so yeah.
Very good. There's no more questions, I think we're all set.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Next, Vision, Public Works is next.
Good evening. So I'm gonna go off my explanation sheet, which matches the spreadsheet. So I think either one, all the numbers will match up. So I guess we'll start with the personnel services, wages, everything reflects off in the 2% COLA. And if you go down to, you'll notice an increase on, a big increase under the personnel services, which is worker compensation, the 0180, at $60,987. That's where the major increase, I think, in the budget is. Also, part-time, so we had to increase that a little bit only because there was overages in the past, which covers our part-time sidewalk operators, administration, in-house administration help, so we increased that by $10,000 to offset some costs. Any questions on personnel services? All right, so moving on. Personal expenses. No increases there at all. Those are all flatline. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. So moving on to supplies and materials. No increases under supply materials this year. Everything is zeroed out. Any question on supplies and materials?
You like those?
Yeah.
Question in regards to what are we spending on sand?
Sand is $2 a yard. $2 a yard, yeah. And that's us screening it ourselves and hauling it back.
Okay.
Yeah, it's roughly, if we didn't screen it ourselves and if we bought it delivered and stacked, it's roughly $10 per yard, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, big difference.
And did we pull any sand from the river?
This year, no, because the rains actually started really early this year, so we didn't have a chance. We usually pull wet sands down there from the surface to put on our surplus or stockpile, but outdoors just for emergency, in case we run out of sand inside the shed that we screen. But we actually didn't use our surplus pile last year, so we're all set on sand.
So that sand's not viable is it just not the right consistency to put on the road?
No, down in the river?
Yeah.
No, it's great. It's great. It's really good sand. It's just, yeah, we strip.
No, I mean, instead of buying it $2 a yard and we're screening it ourselves.
Well, see, we got what sand was there last year, and we were only able to retrieve roughly 1,100 yards. Yeah.
No, because we're limited by DEP as to how far we can go below the water line.
Yeah.
They
It
can
does,
go how
it
much
does
we can.
replenish, of course, it comes
Right.
down the river. But how much does Jimmy Meter charge us?
$2 a yard, same price.
Same price.
Yeah, same price. But we need roughly 6,000 yards total we were only able to retrieve last year, yeah, like I said, around 1,100 yards.
Okay. And our cost associated to retrieving it ourselves
Yes, yep.
is what?
$2 a yard.
That's what it costs us to go to the river and
Yep.
Is that trucking the fuel and everything?
Yep, yep.
so we can get it out of the pit from meter for $2 a yard.
No, we get it out of the pit on the South Strong Road from, yeah, from,
Diet.
yeah,
And that's $2 a yard.
correct.
Same price then?
Yeah, it's the same price, yeah.
About the same haul
Okay.
distance too.
Yep.
So we have to pay for the sand down there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, yes.
I didn't know how exactly that worked with.
Yeah, we don't know, we don't know.
I didn't think so, but I just,
Jimmy Meter owns it.
And they limit how much we can pull out of there every year, right?
Yeah,
Or
well,
how much
not
can we
permit
pull?
wise.
Right,
Yeah.
well, it's limited by essentially how much it's replenished itself over the year. We can't go certain footage below the high water
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
Same thing behind my house, in the pit behind my house. It's the same, I tried to figure it out.
Yeah,
No, I just was curious on how that worked, but that makes sense.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So, okay.
Last time I went by there, you wouldn't even see a beach down there.
Yeah, that, I mean, before I started with the town, the Jim and those guys used to say that there was like 6-foot sand dunes at one point down in the river, and I haven't seen that since I've been here. Yeah,
It's changed a lot down there.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, but it is beautiful sand though to use on our winter roads. It's nice, it's sharp, really sharp sand. It's like glass. Yeah. So, okay. Anything else on supplies and materials? Okay. Moving on to utility services. No increases there. Any questions on that? Okay. Moving on to repairs and maintenance. Okay, so the only increase on this, as Dick mentioned earlier, was the cemeteries maintenance for the gravestone repairs. And this also categorizes, we're in the third year of our 3-year contract agreement with Shane Bartlett for mowing cemeteries.
That will come up next spring.
Yeah.
Yes, you may see an increase next year.
Yeah, time flies.
I believe you know that.
So, any other questions on repairs and maintenance? All right, moving on to contracted services.
Oh, actually,
Oop.
one more for the repairs and maintenance, boy. Oh, no, I'll get it in vehicle repair.
I did. Are you done?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, in regards to the vehicles, what is your plan with the 90,000? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, the 99.
On 2015 item in repairs and maintenance, that's just maintenance on the vehicle?
Oh,
or-
yeah, that's just shop repairs,
Okay.
maintenance, yeah. Yeah, that's just basically what our highway garage operates off from. Yeah, parts and,
And then on, how are you feeling about the equipment rental? Is that working out well?
yeah, that's working out really good, actually, rather than purchasing excavators ourselves and rollers and, because if we did that, obviously we'd see a big spike in equipment purchases, and on top of that, we'd see a huge spike on vehicle repairs and maintenance, so I think it's working out great.
We did overexpend, you'll see on that line, because I reclassified a lot of those expenses that were equipment rental that went into the capital project, Clover Mill Road, for example, and try to make those accounts look a little better.
Okay.
And he had leeway here within this account for unexpended balances.
That's all I had.
Okay, moving on to contracted services, no increases under that. Any questions in there? All right, moving on to the capital outlay. Okay, so the vehicles and equipment reserve account, that's under that. So there's going to be, I'm asking for a $20,000 increase on that, which would bring it up to $220,000. And this little bit of an explanation on this. I just gotta find a little more documentation here. So in 2000 and this past year, we're actually, we were scheduled to replace a loader, but obviously at the time when the COVID first happened, we just didn't know. We didn't want to spend $200,000 just like, not knowing what's going to happen financially. So what we did was we skipped a loader and went to the 2021 schedule, which is the second military conversion. Yeah. So that came out.
I don't know where that was.
Yeah.
So that's in this, that second military truck is in
This
in
year's.
budget?
Yep,
Okay.
in this budget.
That was my question.
Yep, so that
It
means,
was in the 2020 budget.
yep, 2020's budget, exactly.
That's been done. We've got two
Yep.
converted now.
Yep,
And they're both,
Oh, I didn't realize the second one was back
working out
already.
great. Yeah, the second one came back a month ago.
yeah, a month
Oh,
ago.
okay, cool.
And
Now
it's
see
out
that.
on the road, and they were working out great.
Yeah,
I'd
it's,
like to get another one.
I say those things are easy.
We talked with Eddie.
Eddie's been looking. Once in a while, he'll call me out, but, I mean, he's like, Phil, what do you think of this truck in the Cuban Islands, or?
Well, we better go look at it.
It's,
Increase the travel budget.
yeah. So since we did that, we're gonna have $128,212 roll over. So we had $200,000 appropriated in 2020, and it only cost us $73,000 to do the military conversion. So we have $128,000 left over, which will roll over until next year. So, needless to say, we had, it's a lot of numbers I'm throwing at you guys, but 21,900 left over from 2019, which is in our a reserve account. So, well, what's going to be left over for this year, and added 21,000 from 19, will give us 146. So, adding $20,000 for 2021 will give us 366 total, which will allow us to get back on track with a loader and also a replacement of a 2004 State Wheeler Volvo frontline plow truck. That was scheduled for replacement next year. And after that, I think that our fleet is, we just recently hired a new mechanic, and he says after that 04, he said we probably don't need to replace a truck. He'd be comfortable not replacing things for at least 3 years. So we're gonna be caught right up.
You got some time, huh?
Yep. So the 04 is our oldest truck, and then the truck after that is a front line to 2013. So that's quite a,
Quite a raise.
yeah. Yep. Yep. So we've done a good job, really. Yep.
In regards to the Volvo, you said it's 2004 Volvo?
Yeah.
So it's just been up to be replaced this coming
Yep.
year, 2021?
Yep, 2021.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, you said it, the way you said it at first.
Oh,
like
sorry.
saying next year.
Hold on.
I mean, this year, no, so, I don't know.
Don't quote me on that until I look at the equipment replacement schedule. Sorry, 20, okay, make sure I have the right truck here. Okay, 2022. Yeah, 2022.
It would be next year.
Yes, because the military conversion this year was on schedule for 2021.
Right.
Yeah, so we just, yeah.
Kind of jumped ahead a little bit.
Yeah, we
But
jumped
in
ahead.
place of the loader, so I think the loader was supposed to be replaced last year.
Yeah, 2019, and that loader is actually, I can remember everybody, the vintage of it. It's a 1995 Volvo.
It doesn't matter on it.
Yeah, yep.
So what kind of condition is I'm not opposed to replacing the dump truck, but just thinking of the 20,000 increase, is there, I mean, it wasn't scheduled to be replaced till next year.
Yeah, okay, I'll get.
Is it,
Yeah.
and I'm assuming as it's 16 years old, well,
Yeah.
going on 17 years old, that's a lot of miles on those trucks. but-
Exactly, I wasn't gonna, yeah, consider it until, yeah, we hired the new mechanic and he pointed something out on it. The frame, he was able to, he doesn't think it's gonna pass another inspection sticker because the main cross member was cracked on the frame.
Okay.
And he was able to fabricate it enough, you know, so it's safe. And he's just worried about in the future, it's not the first time it's a crack, this piece is cracked and been repaired.
Okay. I just was
Yeah.
curious, is there something that's causing it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It is. So that,
Alright.
it kind of makes me nervous, you know, it is a nice running truck, very nice running truck. It's just the structure of it isn't, up underneath it isn't long-term dependable, I guess.
Just age on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's going on 17
Salt,
years.
You know, salt especially, those frames taken off.
Yeah.
I just was wondering, because you guys didn't really say that there was anything.
Right.
wrong with the trucks.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Bill.
So, yeah, so if we had 20,000, that'll give us 366,000, which will allow us to buy a truck yet and upgrade the loader. So,
More questions?
I'm good.
I'm good.
We'll go to LORAP next.
LORAP.
Maybe. Find it. Oh, there it is.
We are gonna get a little less money from the state this year.
state,
Sorry. Bill's provided a spreadsheet that shows you a LORAP history for the last 8 years. You look at that, and where we are at fiscal FY21 differs a little bit from what I budgeted because it's where the state's on the July to June fiscal year, we're on the calendar year. But if you look back, the high point back in FY12, which was 2011-12 state fiscal year, we had $177,000 from the state. So, and now we're down to 153, or 155 in that range. If you apply the inflation factor to that 177, it's been up over $200,000 this year, so you can see what we've lost from the state. It hasn't kept pace. So that's why when you get to the 5-year road program, I'm proposing to bump up as well. We can talk about that when we get to it. The LORAP is pretty simple. It's just the money that we get from the state for capital expenditures, and we have to certify every year that we used it. This year it was used on Clover Mill Road mostly. I think we have Tarrant Street in there as well.
I would just say that these are ways I think the state could definitely help reduce the property taxes in meaningful ways, and then it gets reinvested back into the community, as opposed to some of the programs that they try to run down there that just seem to mess things up. So if they would just fund programs like this to their fullest,
Yeah.
it would reduce our property taxes.
Part of the problem is that it's, as you know, it's funded by the gas tax.
Right.
And the gas tax hasn't been indexed or increased since the 80s, I think, was when the last time it was indexed. And people are driving less now, but vehicles are much more fuel efficient than they were back in the 60s, 70s.
Right. Well, they could also
like-
just increase the portion that they give to the towns instead of increase the tax too. You know, they
They
could
have
increase
to.
their percentage, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, they did decrease it. It's been 5%, I think, all along, and they decreased it by 10% to 4%. And that
Right.
was, 4 or 5 years ago, I guess, when the state got into a crunch to do that. One thing that has helped, though, from the state is that we've been able to participate in the LPI program, Local Project Initiative, and that pays for half of the cost. It paid for half of the cost of Parent Street, for example. We're going to take advantage of that as well on High Street. MPI program, Municipal Partnership Initiative, that pays for half of these costs on state aid roads.
they've been offering a lot more DEP grants too, as well, which is,
Culvert grants, yeah.
Culvert
those are
grants.
good help.
yeah. So we've been taking advantage of that, which is great. It's been offsetting a lot of this, I guess. It's been helping. help us get ahead anyways on our infrastructure.
Yep.
Yep. Yep, so.
Moving right along to the 5-year road program.
Dick can kind of explain this already, but Dick can explain this to you.
Yeah, well, again, I'm looking for an increase. This is my suggestion, we increase this by $30,000 to get it to $300,000. We did a lot of road work this year. We did overexpend some, and that was my fault, my responsibility. So in order to keep pace, I think, you know, what I just showed you on the LORAP, that we need to increase a little bit on the local side. We've kept this at 270 for the last several years. I think since we started this program, it has not been increased. So I'm suggesting we increase it to 300. We've got High Street scheduled for this year. We've got other roads. You all know the roads that need a lot of work. Osborne Road, Berry Hill Road. I mean, we can sit here and name a dozen roads that need a lot of work. And if the state's, you know, they're not helping us except on these state aid roads, then I guess if we're going to continue this program, which seems to be quite popular, then we should increase our local share.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. Good? Okay.
Can we speculate just a little bit for some of the other related roads? Because it's the number one questions I always get asked.
Of course.
Of those in my rambling around on the back roads. I suspect our portion of the Savage Road is being looked at.
Yeah, so Savage Road, yep.
And out of Mosier Hill.
Yep, we did some maintenance there this past season, but
Mosier Hill is going to be a 2-year project, and that's going to be, well, High Street's going to be a 2-year project, so Mosier Hill comes after that, I think, it's the third year out.
yeah,
And because of the length of the road, it's going to be a 2-year project.
yeah,
Meanwhile, we're trying to do offshoots. We need work on Osborne Road, we talked about for a while. And when we do a road like High Street, for example, I like to do the intersecting roads at the same time, streets. So we've got Perkins Street and Lincoln Street that need a lot of work too, especially Perkins Street.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping with this increase, we can work those into the High Street project. And we had pretty good success last year with the projects out on Stewart Avenue, Lake Avenue, Eastmont Square. So that end of town is pretty much done. And we did some maintenance type overlays up on in the Court Street area, Mountain Street, Orchard Street. And I think that took care of that part of town as well. So, and we're trying to balance it between out of town and in town work so that everybody gets a little something. We are making progress. I know the roads that are outlying are terrible. And I hear from folks too. And I think, we are making progress. People have been remarkably patient, and I really appreciate that. I would guess, in another maybe 10 years, we'll be in really good shape and to the point where we just need to go back around, start over again doing surface overlays and crack sealing and chip sealing and normal surface maintenance rather than complete rebuild with heavy ditches and culverts and all of that. So the state doesn't do it that way. They take the paintbrush to the road, but we're paying the long dollars, making the investment that's going to last, I think.
yeah.
I agree.
Mosier Hill, when you go up Mosier Hill, does it stay Mosier Hill all the way down to 27, or does Mosier Hill only go just a certain ways and then it ends to whatever that other road is?
The Federal Road, yeah. The gravel section's industry, and then, to be honest with you, I don't know what industry's portion is. Federal Road is right there. That's where it changes, and then it turns into Ramsdale Road. Yeah, further.
Where the sharp corner is.
Where the sharp.
Turns into what?
Ramsdale Road.
Ramsdale Road.
Yeah. Yep, then,
So the Ramsdale Road, so you're not talking Ramsdale Road, you're talking Mosher Hill up to where it ends?
yes, yep, exactly. And then Twig Snapper is also off from, Ramsey Road, which we plow that too. Yep.
We did have some complaints on Ramsdale Road, and we did some work up there, but there's more that needs to be done up there as well.
Yeah.
We got rocks popping up all the surface.
Yeah.
He'll need some drainage.
Yeah, it needs drainage.
Drainage up there.
It's probably been like that for quite
Yeah.
a long
But it's
time.
really bad.
I don't think the road's been good, the dirt section's better than the
Mhm.
It
paved
is. I
section.
can't remember when they tied that back, way back when, to try and hold that hill.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's still the same problems.
I had a few calls on the Ramsdale Road, and when I went up there, I could not imagine plowing that.
So that's another thing.
It's tough.
You're gonna leave some stone, like, but you
Right.
did pull some rocks, and they did a little bit of work, but I just went, ooh, I don't wanna be the guy plowing that.
Yeah, it actually wasn't as bad as Clover Mills Road was. Plowing. Yeah. So, but, yeah, and also, the High Street project for next year is also MPI eligible as well, so that's gonna help, so.
All right, we also have the 5-year road program.
So for what year are we into now? For a long time. I was on the budget committee then.
Yeah,
Well,
we both were.
we keep redoing it every
I know.
5 years, so we're probably in year 2, I think, of this, we're heading into year 3, I think, of this project.
Yes,
5 year.
and 5 year, yeah.
That was a while ago. All right, moving along, we'll go to recycling now.
You will see quite an increase in this. Professional plane or building.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we'll start, I guess we can start with personnel services. 2% COLA, 2% COLA, and also the minimum wage increase reflects on this. So. And then, as you noticed, the workers' compensation increased $2,044. Pretty substantial on this budget. So, any questions on that? And then the only other increase on the rest of the budget, the department is 3070, the contractual services. And Dick can explain this.
Well, the biggest thing here, as you recall, we contracted with Alan Archibald to handle all the recycling last year, and it was after the first quarter of the year, it had already gone by on this $40,000 contract with Alan, which the calculations showed that it was still cheaper to recycle with Alan than to send the waste to the landfill, to be landfill. So this reflects the full year with him, which is another $10,000. It's 40. We paid $30,000 last year, and it's $40,000 this year. So you look at that and you say, well, then it should be $100,000. The issue is that if you look back, we've consistently overexpended this line item in terms of our demo debris disposal. It's offset through revenue, which I'll show you eventually. I don't have those numbers yet. But you can see we overspent it by $10,000 from 2019. Again, I don't have that in front of me, but we've overexpended it by probably $30,000 this year. So I really need to bump that up just to reflect actual expenditures. And again, it is offset on the revenue side as well. And I've looked at it, and what we're charging is, it seems to be adequate to cover the tipping fee. I don't think we really need to make any adjustments. We haven't in quite a while. Some of the things we can't really recover the cost of the brush disposal, for example, so we don't charge for that, and then eventually it gets to the point where we have to bring in a tuck rug or something. to take care of that.
Right.
That's probably the only thing really that we're not covering the cost of, wouldn't you say, Bill?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I agree.
In regards to our cost, I think I'm interested to see if we see an increase in revenue, just where the new personnel
Yes.
and more of us, the fees being applied equally and all this.
Yeah, I think
Consistently all
we
the
need to
time.
have a better handle on it,
Yes.
a more accurate
I
system
think
down
we'll see
now,
quite a-
so I
quite an
think
increase,
you will see
yeah.
that.
I think,
Another issue is that I think we probably saw an increase in the amount of building material that was brought in because of COVID. People were staying home and doing a lot of their own home projects, so I think we saw
Yeah.
an increase in.
when COVID first hit, yeah, I mean, this was our previous employees where they were telling me that there was triple the amount of people at first. It's unbelievable. When the first, say, stimulus package came out, people were starting small projects. They were doing yard work, which was great. You know, people were doing stuff. They were staying busy and occupied. So I think we're going to see a big increase in revenue, just for the COVID situation. A lot more activity.
Yep, and I'll have those numbers for you too.
Steve?
Richard, on the revenue side, for the solar project up there, that will come in sometime next summer's construction season?
Yes, as you know, the assessments are based on the state of construction as of April 1st each year. And if you look right now, they've got a lot of stanchions up. I haven't seen any panels, solar panels being applied yet. I don't know what the status of that is, but at least you have to assume that what's there now has some value, some considerable value, and on April 1st, it should have more. So what that number is, it's anybody's guess right now, but that's going to be up to our assessor to determine that.
And the benefit side of that contract would show against this budget. I mean, we're getting an annual amount for that.
Oh, you're talking about, yeah, I thought you were talking about the large.
No, that's at the old landfill.
Yeah, no, it would accrue to the general fund. I don't know when they're gonna start building that project. We won't see much of anything, until, they start
Sure.
putting the material in, but I think it's gonna be about $30,000 a year in revenue that would accrue to the general fund.
So we're not dedicating that back into offsetting this account per se?
No, generally, I mean, you wouldn't, this is just operations, and that would be another revenue source. Leases, it'll show probably under leasing of town property, where we have that as a line in the revenue chart.
That makes sense.
Thanks.
Anything else? Good. Is it done with recycling then?
That's it. All right.
Anything else you want to talk about, Phil?
That's everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions for me?
Gotta run.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Bill. We'll do administration next.
Excellent. Drive safe.
You too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, administration and personnel services, you see the 2% COLA is reflected there. Again, there was no collective tax that. There was no increase in the health insurance cost, that's completely flat. And workers' comp, we had a fourfold increase there, so like everybody else. Travel, education, conference, I cut that back a little bit, because, I don't anticipate as many training opportunities, or at least on mileage to go places. Everything else is pretty much where it's been. I think I've got a detailed sheet here that explains some of this. Dues went up a little bit. yeah, everything else, I'd increased the town report kind of a little bit. And computer network support, I've kept that the same the last several years. Most of these, equipment rental, for example, 2030, these are actual figures that we get from the vendors. These are budgeted right to the dollar, so. $6,000 increase, 2.4%.
Not bad at all. Any questions? Mr. Fowler?
Only one. Because last year, it was too early. This year, it's been, if you remember back about 5 years ago, I was the one that said that it had been over 10 since the selectmen had received a stipend increase.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And we were gonna come back and address that. I suggested we do it every 5 years. And this would be the year.
Okay.
So I would propose that we have a discussion about what, if we want to do that, and if so, how much. I'm not looking at a tremendous amount of money. If it was $100 across the board, would make an increase of 5. On top of the budget for the selectmen is 2,200. That would bring it to 27.
Well, it would be 2,100 each for 4 of you, so that's 8,400, and then it'd be 2,300 for the chairman, so that 10,200 would, you're right, would be increased by $500 to 10,700.
Right. That would be my.
Yep, I can certainly do that.
I'd like to address that, so I've brought it up.
Yep. Whatever your pleasure is on that. I didn't figure it was up to me to just go ahead and do that.
I didn't hear it.
I didn't figure it was up to me to just go ahead and do that.
No, it isn't. No, we, as I said, 5 years ago, it hadn't been done for about 10. And I mentioned at the time that we should hit that each 5. And so this just happens to be that time.
I'm okay with where it is, or, board wants $100, or I don't really have any say either way. I'm good either way.
Whatever you think.
I mean, one way that we discussed it at the county level with the county commissioners, and they haven't passed it forward to change the bill, some of the statutes in regards to the budget process, but what was proposed was that the change in salary would happen at the next time that person comes up for re-election. So in other words, so instead of this looks like us giving ourselves a raise,
Right.
so say we could propose that come the next term, that person could go up potentially or whatever. It's just a thought, so that if there was ever a concern like, well, I'm gonna increase our salary for $500 this year or whatever have you, but that's the way theirs is gonna work, so that if there is an increase, it goes on to the next cycle of the
I
term.
like that. I like that.
So they'd be staggered, they wouldn't always get the same amount.
Right, it just goes based off when they get elected, so this way it's not,
Yep.
but.
So who's up this year, is it you?
It's, I'm up this year. Yep.
It was just, I haven't thought about it till really right now in regards to,
No, and
Sounds
I
personally, but-
missed that on how the county did actually like that.
they haven't changed it yet, so.
Well, before
We worked on that, it got worked on this summer and then into the fall and then had it ready to go to Augusta, because that's how the statute has to get changed.
Sure.
And so then it hasn't left Franklin County, so. But yes, it's just, it's the way it gets cycled out.
Yeah, my way would be that each 5 years you look at it, and that's you get $100 increase after 5 years. if you go off this year, well, then you're off, the one coming in benefits. But the years down the road, you have that money set aside for the work that they do. So it's a look at it every 5 rather than, because you can do less, not do anything. It's just that it's time to look at it.
I'm not sure I follow the thread, but we're not talking a lot of numbers. But using that principle, then, if Matt ran and were reelected for that coming budget year, he would receive X number of dollars more himself. The other 4 would not.
Similar, yeah, I'd have to look it up again and read it. Like I say, I haven't,
And if Matt were not reelected or chose not to run and a new person took that position, that person would not receive.
No, that person would, it's just that it goes, and then next year, when that seat comes up, it would be increased, that's how it gets increased, but.
So could I play devil's advocate for a minute?
Do
If the person doesn't get reelected and a new person comes in with no experience at all, they get paid more than the person who went off.
But it went to effect to also the county, say the registry of deeds and probate, so that they were coming in and that's what their set pay would be for that term that they ran, and then it would be adjusted if need be after that. So that's what they were trying to get away from, that it'd be fluctuating. Somebody new comes in and they ask for an extra $10,000
Right.
or all that. So. There's a little more to it than that, Steve. I don't have it all on my mind right now.
I understand. I'll ponder that question. I don't mind moving it for the money.
There's time, I mean, if you guys want to think it over and let me know what you want to do. We're not done yet.
And just so that we all know, if a town meeting this passes, when is that for the next year? When does it take effect immediately? Because it's for a year.
Yeah.
The 2,000 that we currently get is for the year. So next December, would it be 21?
That would be reflected,
Yeah.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my idea is just simple, $500
Each?
Oh,
You can think about it, we're gonna do this again, I'm pretty sure.
It's up to you folks. You need to make a decision at some point. The budget committee would probably like to know before you're done.
What line item are we?
110.
110.
Oh, 110.
Salary, yeah, 10.
Stipends. Not sure that's a correct term anymore, like Matt was talking about. It has to go through payroll and it is taxable.
That's true.
You guys are employees.
Well, for the purpose of debate and giving some figure to go forward to the budget committee, I'll support Michael's suggestion of adding $100 each.
Good. I can support that. I don't have any heartburn either way.
I don't either.
Clyde?
There's another way to look at this. We don't get a lot of participation running for any of our facility offices. Increase in pay does interest some people. Whether it would be enough to bring more people out of woodwork, I don't know. I know that the budget committee, their pay increases every year, and we have a difficult time fulfilling the number that we have. I'm sure that the select person, if you look at it, you had tremendous competition this last run, didn't you, Steve?
Amazing.
So it's interesting, but it is an incentive.
It helps.
Thank you, Clyde.
So it sounds like three of you are in favor of it. The $100 increase, if I'm counting correctly.
I'm comfortable with the pay right now, so, but they go through with it, that's fine. I mean,
You won't say no, right?
I won't say yes.
So it looks like I've got a majority, all I've got to do is increase it by $500. Yeah.
Which was that, the undesignated fund balance?
Good.
Yeah, you can do that.
So I think I've gone over everything. What's through? Any other questions?
Anybody else? No, yeah, no, we're good, Richard.
Okay.
We'll move on to committees and events.
Committees and events.
Josh, I'm sure you can donate that to the new salmon and fish where we get too. I'm sure they
Jeez,
appreciate
don't
it.
start talking.
I couldn't help it.
So I left this the same, I didn't increase anything there. We did overexpend on Memorial Day, but the Legion, as you guys were able to reuse some flags from last
Considerable
year.
flags this year, so
So we're not looking at it, and will actually be a little bit less, I
Yeah.
think, this year.
that's what we're looking at. We had good luck with the flags. They actually stood up really well this year, so
Dry,
which is good.
dry summer, I think.
Yep, and we had a better quality flag this year. I'm not really sure
Oh,
why,
yeah. That's good.
but they seemed to hold together better, so, which is a plus.
So yeah, I left that the same.
Questions or
Question
comments?
on special projects, would that be where the memorial at Meeting House Park would be funded from, is from that? So that is considered a special project, that project you want to do for the memorial?
We haven't budgeted anything specifically for that. I know there was some talk about some fundraising maybe and
Yeah.
a contribution from the town.
Have you
But
got-
until I get a solid figure, I don't know what to.
Have you got any further with that? as to-
I talked with Kent Wiles, and we were starting to get some stuff going, and then COVID hit, and it just, in all honesty, it got sidetracked. And so I'll reach back out to Kent and just see where that lies with that, and see where he is. I know he was talking, initially, it was the $10,000 to $15,000 range for what one of these monuments will cost.
Well, that's what prompted me to ask, is if you knew that that project would be around $10,000, would this be the place to put the money? Because it's gotta come from somewhere, right?
Yeah, you have a lot of discretion with this account, special projects. The only things you've used it for, and again, I don't have the total right now, but it's just a few $100s. You've been buying those ads in the paper talks,
Right.
or what is that magazine?
Well, I understand, but if you know it's gonna be a lot more than normal, that's
You could
what
bump
you
it
want
up.
to
yeah.
do.
Yeah, but I didn't think the town was gonna take it on all itself. It was gonna be a contribution towards the funding.
Kind of the way I took it too,
Yeah.
be a community type thing
Okay.
versus just a town thing. That's the way I kind of read it the first time.
Yeah.
Josh?
Correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like it's really still at the beginning stages and it
Very much
probably
so.
won't even be another year anyways till
I'm gonna say,
potentially.
right, yeah.
So we get a hard number and then we would actually know potentially what we need to budget.
Yeah.
That is kind of a long-range project, because the biggest thing with a project like that is determine the accuracy of the names. You've got to find out, and from time to time, I know some of those names that are on there are wrong. There's misspellings.
Yeah, it's been brought to the Legion's attention a couple different times. We actually have one guy there that can spout off about 4 names that are wrong.
Yeah.
He said that, he knows most of them.
That's, if you're gonna chisel them in granite, you want them to be
We
absolutely.
want to do it once and only once. Yep. Good one.
That's
Okay.
fine. I just, stuff jumps in there and then the mouth opens. and
I
it comes
understand.
out.
You gotta hurry up and say something before it escapes. I have to do the same thing.
Okay, moving on.
Yep.
Municipal building.
Yep.
Well, again, we have the 2% controller for the custodian. And that's the biggest, the workers' comp again That bid us by $800, so that's the biggest increase there. You don't see any other increases. We actually have a little bit of a decrease in the heat line item because we got really good pricing last year at $1.93.9 for transport load, 7,500 gallons. And I think we might be able to take another transport load before July 1st or June 30th of the coming year, so that will help us. And the remainder is about 2,500 gallons. I've estimated the cost at $227 after July 1st. That's about a 10% increase. We're at $205 now for pedal truck, they call it, which is the regular truck. So there was a little bit of savings there. Everything else, pretty much the same. You see an increase in 3550 land and property improvement. We're hoping to do some improvements to our air handling units in this building, which are pretty antiquated. Looking at an automated air handling system to automate air handling unit number 3 upstairs, and that's going to be about $8,000. We could actually put a lot more money into the air handling system in this building. We have somebody from mechanical services coming to check out the airflow in here, because of course that is a concern with COVID. You need to turn the air over fairly often. So I don't know what's going to come out of that for suggestions. We're also looking at upgrading our security camera system in the building. So the reserve balance right now is 10.8. We wanted to have some parking lot repairs and seal coating done last year, and the guy never got to it. I asked him if he'd keep his price. We'll talk about that in the spring. If he'll keep his price from last year, we'll get some of that work done, so that will complete that. So I'm looking at keeping that. That's still at $7,000 to keep that reserve account built up, where we can use it for things like that, and unexpected things. So total I'm presenting is $84,874. It's an $11,800 increase, 16.9%. If you look back in 2018, we were at $101,000. We were at $84,000 in 2019. And last year we did decrease because we didn't do anything really for the land and property, very little. We improved some of the glass at the front entry with low E double pane glass for energy efficiency and back entry as well. So that explains the increase there.
Questions? Seeing any? Josh, you all set?
Just looking over the reserve, land and property, is it, so obviously you're gonna use put 7,000 into reserve, and then you're just gonna take it looks like you're gonna spend about 20,000 ballpark, did I get that right?
No, out of the reserve account itself, we would be spending $8,600. But we've added, putting 7,000 back in there. If you consider that expenditure, then yes, 15,000.
Right, but so you're looking to spend 8625 on the parking lot.
Yep.
And then 8,000 on the air control
Right,
system, and then 4,000, so it's about 20,000 that you'll be spending.
Total, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right, the 8,000 is out of the reserve account, and the other 12 is out of land and property. 3,550. And the only reason I kept the 8,600 in the reserve account was because it was approved last year and it just never got done.
So then by the end of it, we should have roughly about 8,000 to 9,000 in reserve after ballpark.
Yeah, yeah.
And you foresee, what's the next major thing with this building? it don't seem like we have to spend a lot of money on this building, other than maybe a roof here and there, but.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is, it's gonna be the HVAC system eventually. I mean, we've got, we replaced the boiler, what, 10, 12 years ago. We've got 2 boilers, and they're in good shape. I think those will go us quite a lot longer. But it's the air handling system, and knock on wood, we haven't had much for repairs. Occasionally a belt needs to be replaced or bearing or something like that. It's an air handler in that room. There's 4 of them. But those should be upgraded at some point, and I've got estimates that are in the $30,000 range. But to go through and completely, you know, have it engineered and revamped, you might want to put a rooftop unit or whatever.
Right.
We've made good progress with the heat pumps. The ladies are very happy with them. In the summertime, we have air conditioning in here that we couldn't get any other way. We used to have the window units on the back. Those didn't work that good, and they were really a workers' comp issue. You know, we get back.
And they cost more too.
Yeah, not very efficient. And the heat pumps, they work really well. So I think we have heat pumps now everywhere in the building where they can be or where they're needed. So that's not an issue. We even have it's called a cassette unit in the ceiling in the offices in there, and they're happy. They used to be cold in the winter, and I don't know, it's so hot in the summer. This area, it seems to stay pretty moderate because it's, you know, in the center of the building. So yeah, that will be the thing. It will be eventually air handling units.
I just was curious.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Otherwise, I mean, as we always say, this building is built like a fortress. It's gonna last forever. It's just keeping the systems updated in it. And we've done pretty well. You know, we got the heat pumps. We went through, replaced all the windows with energy efficient windows. And that was 10, 15 years ago. So, you know, we keep plugging away at it as things come up. We've been replacing the lock sets with these ADA compliant, code compliant lock sets, and they are very durable, but they are expensive. And we're gradually going through the building and replacing those.
About the lights, when was the upgraded light system here?
Yeah, we had them, they're T.A.N s, I think they are, the more efficiency ones. We went through, we got some money, rebates from Efficiency Maine, went through and replaced all of those, probably 6 or 8 years ago. And Terry had them all upgraded in the fire bays just last year. So those, they're pretty good as far as efficiency goes. One thing we're gonna need to do is replace the telephone system in the building eventually, but I don't think that's gonna cost us very much money. It's an operational expense rather than a capital expense. And we might be looking at that even this coming year. It'll cost us a little more monthly, but not a capital outlay. We do have problems with this phone system from time to time. It goes down, and we have to go out in the apparatus bay and reload it, but, you know, reboot it and that sort of thing. But, yeah, the generator is working out great. That thing is beautiful. Powers this whole building. You just see a little lights flicker once and boom, you're on the generator. So
Nice.
you did well with that.
Good.
You know, I think we're all pretty happy with the building and the way it's set up. We lucked out. A lot of town, with COVID, a lot of town offices, all they had was a big counter that was wide open. And they had to rig up all the plexiglass and everything. We had our workstations all set up to go.
Yeah.
So that, the safety factor was already, we lucked out that way. We did get some little intercoms. They didn't cost very much, so people can hear better on both sides of the plexiglass. So, and you know, we've had some expenditures. Excuse me. Oh, probably $3,000 or $4,000 on different the stanchions that we got to separate people, the sanitizers, masks, markings on the floor, all of that stuff. So I think everybody in the building feels pretty safe, as long as the public does its part, and we're pretty good.
Good.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other comments on municipal building? Nope. If not, we'll move along. We've got other protections.
Okay, other protections. We are continuing to benefit from the efficiency of the LED streetlights from that conversion. So you can see in 2018, we had budgeted $85,000. This year, I think we can get by with under $65,000. There's a considerable savings there. Hydrants, we are dependent on the water department and the tariff rate. Haven't heard of any increase there. Insurances, I did have to increase considerably because we have gone over budget quite a bit on our insurances, which you'll see when we get the final figures. Ambulance service, it is what it is based on the per capita. That has been remarkably stable over the years and actually has gone down a little bit. I've squeezed it. I don't want to, you may see it come back up some eventually, but that's a good number, I think, and we are really, really fortunate to have the ambulance service that we have for that per capita year. It's unbelievable. Traffic light maintenance, I think to $20,000, what we bumped up to last year. I think that's a pretty good number. We may see, I think it's next year or the year after, the DOT is going to revamp, the plan of revamping all the traffic signals and the crosswalks, the crossing signals at Main and Broadway. And we'll still be responsible for the maintenance of them, but they're going to be very efficient and up to date as far as the preemption that the emergency vehicles can use to change lights when you have a call and that sort of thing. So we may see some savings there as far as maintenance. These lights, these signals have got some age on them. You can tell just by looking at them, but the paint's worn off on them and everything. So,
Yep.
So that'll be an improvement. But I think for now, 20,000 is probably a good number. We had a complaint today about traffic signal over by Hannaford not phasing correctly in one of the turn lanes, and that happens over there from time to time. Where we've upgraded, we've put the cameras rather than the loops, because the loops will break, and we've got to grab them out and do that. So the cameras are better. They work better. So yeah, I think that's a good number, 20,000.
Questions, comments? If not,
1% increase total in that vehicle account.
move along to the debt service.
Debt service. Now, you remember that with debt service, we have a substantial increase here because in order to hold expenses down last year, we pushed out the first payment on the new fire truck to this month actually. So that's a double payment on the fire truck between principal and interest. And Lucy likes to break this out. This is the first time I broke it out between principal and interest.
Yeah, I like that, actually.
The garage, I think this year isn't the last payment on the garage, then it's next year. And I think there's 2 more payments on the garage, and we will own that. So then the biggest one's gonna be the fire truck, and the police is there. I got it down here. Yeah, the garage was paid off, not this year, but next year. And the police debt will be paid off in 5 years. The fire truck, we've got another 8 years to go on that.
And when the garage was built, we were looking at 2022, we'll own it. It's a long ways off. Not so long anymore.
No.
Questions, comments?
Unless you just said it and I didn't hear it, how much longer do we have on the police building?
The police building is
Says right at the bottom.
5 more years.
5?
5 more years, yeah. that was a 15-year note.
Why didn't I just read that down the bottom?
I didn't read it.
By the way, if
myself.
you guys didn't go pick up on it, it'll be paid off in 2026, and that's like 5 years.
Yeah,
Had your finger on it.
yeah.
Appreciate that, Mike.
Had my hand over it.
Me too. Up for that. Yep.
Questions, comments? If not, we'll move to legal reserve.
Only question I had,
Oh,
so
okay.
annually our payment for the fire truck is gonna be about 68,000?
Uh,
64,000?
I think it was-
No, it'd be
I think it was 59,000.
59,000,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's what it was.
Jeez, I should have been looking at
Yeah.
that. 59, add too many zeros. So,
Yep.
so next year that should be about 59.
Yeah, next year you'll see this drop down to
Yep.
about what it was, and then the year after that, the garage
Yeah.
goes away, actually, next year, the garage. That makes it way, we'll have some more leeway there.
Then place that payment with the fire truck.
Well, you pay me now, pay me later, I guess.
Yep.
Mhm.
You all set, Josh?
Yeah, thanks.
Legal reserve.
Legal reserve, I was able to drop that down to $10,000 because we do have a balance, surprisingly to me, still in the legal reserve account of, how much? Almost $40,000. So that'll give us 50. Just don't know what we're gonna have for legal expenses, and we'd probably be looking at, our 3-year engagement with Amanda Meter is up, so we'll be looking at going with a different law firm, which I'll bring that to you this spring. She's treated us very well, but, you know, you go to one of the other larger law firms, you're probably gonna pay more, probably. So that 10,000 should be.
Questions, comments? Go to ADA.
ADA reserve, you know, we've got almost $17,000 in this reserve account, and I don't, you know, it's always there. We could probably utilize it more than we do. We're doing the road project, for example, and we need to put the tactile pads down. We could use it for that. So I'm suggesting keep that flat and put another $1,000 in it this year.
No more questions, comments? We'll move on to contracts, public service.
Okay, so we have a 2% increase here. The library is requesting 205,404, which is what they asked for, I think, 2 years ago. I did provide your budget sheet, and I don't know, I'll be talking with the budget committee tomorrow night about whether to have them come in and do a presentation. Andy Robinson's on the board now, he's the treasurer, I think. The gay cemetery, there's no increase there. They're asking for the $1,000. The animal shelter, that's what it is for a full year. Their per capita, I think, is $2.05, and it went up last year, but it was only for half the year, so that's why you see that it was less last year. That's gonna be the total for the year, 17,000. So 2% increase in this group of accounts.
It's amazing you take the insurances out, these increases are really minimal.
Yeah.
Really? Outside agencies.
Outside agencies, I put it in the same amount as last year, 17,998. You can see some of them are asking for a lot more. Western Maine Transportation, for example, they're asking for over 15,000, but I put them in at 514, the same as they've been getting all along. Seniors Plus, they wanted 3,000, and Sepper is asking for 2,000. I've lucked everything to see what it was. This might be a good opportunity. I've been thinking, suggesting, I know this is, it's difficult to take on a new cause, but I get solicited, and I need to share this with you, by Lifelight of Maine. And they airlifted, last year they airlifted something like 38 people in this town. And the list of towns that contribute to Lifelight, you know, a few $1,000s each town is, it's almost, we should be on that list. I feel like it is probably one of the most worthy agencies that there is. I mean, you know, I guess, you know, I can't really, without sharing the information with you, I don't have it tonight, but I can do it, you know, I can give it to you at the next meeting, for you to at least consider. I think it would be, if we were gonna, again, I know it's difficult to add expenditures, but that would be one that I would think would certainly be well worth the town looking at, helping to fund. If you tell me, no, you don't want to look at any new agencies, that's fine. I understand either way. Now, you know, I don't usually do this, suggest that we add a new agency, but that's one that's been kind of on my mind that certainly I feel is very worthwhile. Whatever you folks think. If you'd like to look at it, I can bring you the information at the next meeting.
Go ahead, Josh.
Well, in regards to Lifelight of Maine, are you aware what they charge for flights?
I'm not off the top of my head, no.
So
I know it's very expensive to
it's
operate.
extremely expensive if you're gonna pay out of pocket.
Hmm.
It's not, and then, I mean, obviously, if you're in need of a Lifelight trip to Portland, or wherever, obviously you're taking it regardless of how much it costs, but it's.
And your ability to pay, I assume, too. Regardless of your ability to pay.
Well, yes, regardless of your ability to pay. So, just personally, I just know of the cost of what it takes to fly from here to Portland. So it's not cheap by any means. So that's the thing I have a hard time with some of these agencies that, and I'm not saying they're not a great agency or program or any of them, but they're charging the insurance companies as well to operate. So it's not like they're just not getting funded from any other means. It's just by donation only. So many of these, it's like, I like Western Maine Transportation. I think that it's a good service that could be provided to the people of the town, but very few people operate, and if that was operating in the private sector, they'd be out of business because there's no, financially,
Right.
it's not gonna survive. It won't, it'll go out. And, you know, that's a fine line to walk with Western Maine, like an institution like that and even Lifelight. Obviously, Lifelight's a little bit different because it's of a medical concern and it can be an emergency.
You need it, you need it.
You need it.
Right.
But when they charge $16,000 to get on the flight to go to Portland, you know, it's a substantial chunk of change. Not that we all know that the medical field is expensive. So I hear what you're saying, Dick. I mean, I think we could put the list, there's probably 15 pages of great programs and agencies that get started, but I think I know I'd be opposed to giving them the tax dollars from Farmington property taxpayers. Especially in the year, I mean, we're already increasing the budget. And not obviously by anything that departments are really doing, but just because of workers' comp. And I mean, like Franklin County Soil and Water Conservation District is a whole nother thing. I mean, they're still receiving almost the entire amount of their funding from the county. And they've been fine with it. Now, some of the others have complained greatly about it. It's kind of like Androscoggin Home Care and Hospice. I get it. Their funding, but they also receive millions of dollars from providing care through taxing, not taxing, but charging their patients as well. And yes, there's people that go there and they have no money to pay for it, but they provide the service to them as well. But that's, it's, I can go right down the list to every one of them, and do they need the funds from the property taxpayers, another tax dollar taken, or do they just asking because that's a way to get funding so that they can do this program or do that program or whatever? I don't see it's a means that the property taxpayers should pay these organizations from one source of taxation. I think they should stick to going to the state, and that's where they should get their funding from, where it's drawn down from many avenues. But that's just my opinion, and I know the people at the town meeting will fund these, because that's what they've been doing for the last, I don't know how many years now, that they've been at 3 years, 4 years. So, but
That's fine.
I mean, that's just my opinion.
I respect that view, certainly.
Well, I have a thought. On your conversations and thinking, and you obviously did because you brought it to us, this is life like that. Is there any concern that Life Flight would leave the area? This isn't, you're not talking something to keep them here and ensure that they keep coming?
No, I don't think it's that. I think it's, maybe it's a way to, again, if somebody needs to be airlifted, it's, a matter of life and death, and not everybody can pay. And that not everybody has insurance that can pay. So I think it's a way to help them to offset those business losses so they can continue to operate.
I hear you. I don't know, I do and I don't know currently what happens when someone is taken and they can't pay. They get through it somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't end up paying, or whatever happens.
Yeah, I don't know that. Somehow the company has to absorb that, I think, So I think that's why they approach the towns and supplement, those losses, because they do originate in our communities. I think, like I said, I think it was 38 people that were airlifted from Farmington last year, a statistic. And we know several of them, our own firefighters in 2019.
And North Star or any other ambulance services are in the same predicament. There's some pay out of pocket, some buy insurance, and some don't pay.
That's right, yeah.
And it all goes into the mix.
My only concern with adding another one is when these came back on, these were the ones that were there. These are the ones that we funded before. We've kind of had a blanket policy is, well, we're not taking on anything new.
Right.
I don't know how we close that door if we open it up for one. How do we close it for the other ones? Other than just, well, we're just not going. And that'd be my only concern. I don't, obviously you can't, how can, say Life Flight or any of these things, they're all needed. Yeah, I can appreciate that.
I didn't mean to open a can of worms, because I know this is always the perpetual discussion, which do you fund and do you fund any of them? I really thought we had a good system where it would fulfill to the county, but it's come back to us, and we have to deal with it.
So just for my knowledge, last year, 2 years in a row, ever since we did that at the first town meeting and agreed to give them $17,998, and that's what it's going to be forever. Forever. Don't ask for any more. But when it says here the agency requested,
right,
which comes up to about double that, how did they request that? How did they,
Just send me a letter.
they just send you the information and say, Mr. Davis, you're not giving us enough, we want
Yeah.
this?
Right.
Really? That's how they do it?
That's how they do it, and the amounts that we put in there were originally to replace what they were funded, our Farmington's taxation share of what they were funded through the county, so, they weren't getting it from the county anymore, so they came to us.
No, I was just curious how they, that's just, it just
Yeah, I mean, I
seems
could've-
strange to me, but I guess that's how it
Well,
is.
some of them have support letters behind your spreadsheet, Mike, and some are
Yeah,
very
they-
specific.
Yeah, and I know they're forever asking for money.
Right.
No, I did not read those, but that's, I was just curious. Well, then you put it there just to honor what they asked for. You know,
Yeah, I could have put that they requested just what they got last year, what we proposed to give them, but I didn't think it would be honest. They asked for an amount, so I put that amount in.
That's what it has to be. It's
Okay.
open out what we want to fund.
Very good.
Now, I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead,
It says- I see you've got a note down here, Dick, that the GFDC was paid from the downtown tip account. I thought we paid them from the Franklin printing tip. Right here on to the left of the page. It says no, GFDC was paid from the downtown tip. I thought we were paying them from the Franklin printing tip.
I think it could be paid from either one of those accounts. They both allow for, those types of promotional, I'd have to look back last year. It might have been paid from the Franklin printing account. Problem with the Franklin printing account is it's not being replenished. Eventually, it's gonna be depleted, so, but the downtown TIF account is replenished every year.
It might have been done that way because it seems like we handled that account pretty hard for some of the Front Street stuff too. Didn't
With
we?
the downtown TIF
No.
account?
Am I thinking of something different? Thinking of
Oh,
something
we use the
different?
downtown tip for the Front Street.
Yeah, for the
Right.
infrastructure project.
For this, if we're gonna go that way in the future, I think the TIF committee should have.
Yeah.
Probably want to discuss, we'd just like to probably want to have a discussion on it,
Yeah.
get their opinion.
Yeah,
Because
for sure, yeah, and maybe I got that wrong, maybe it was a Franklin printer, I'll have to look in that.
All right.
Make sure.
Any questions, comments? That's the last one.
Yep.
Almost relatively painless. Almost. Have a good evening, Clyde.
Thanks. Hey, Clyde. See ya.
Thank you, Clyde. See you tomorrow night, Clyde.
Go hear it all over again. Anything else to add, Richard, before we move on?
No, I think we covered it pretty well for the first go around. As the budget committee said.
Well, good deal. Well, we'll move along to item number 3. That's to approve the minutes of December 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion and a second to approve the minutes of December 22nd, 2020. Any questions, comments? Not ready for a vote.
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bumper?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
All right, that's unanimous. And item number 4 is discuss other business. You have anything, Richard?
No.
Steve?
No, I'm good.
Mike?
No, I'm all set. Thank you for the opportunity.
Josh?
So the budget committee will be meeting down here as usual
Yes.
tomorrow night?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. That's at 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock,
Yeah,
they're meeting
yeah.
at 6. So they'll meet probably every Wednesday this month, or at least 3 Wednesdays to get through it, so.
Yeah. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Really don't have anything. other than, I do have I don't normally speak about this, but I have a good friend that's going through about 8 hours of surgery tomorrow. And I just want to wish him a lot of luck. I want to wish his family a lot of luck. And we hope for the best for him. So, other than that, I don't have anything.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
What about the minutes? To approve the minutes of December
Yep,
22nd?
we voted on it.
Yes.
Oh, that's what you just did, I'm sorry. You kept me up past my bedtime.
We can do it again.
Yeah.
We can stay longer if you want. Been a motion and a second to adjourn.
Did you get the motions and seconds on that?
Yeah. Who was it?
Mike and I.
Yep. In any particular order.
Got it. Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Bunker?
Yes.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Very good, thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.